are listening to WHOA Podcast, coming to you from Gainesville, Florida. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the WHOA GNV Podcast, the podcast bringing you businesses and individuals that make you go, whoa! Nailed it. I am your host, Collin Austin, and my co-host is the one, the only, the Mr. Magical Mr. D's.
The Mr. Magic. Having a big and rich time.
Having a big rich... That was a good hype song, man. It got us, like, going. How you doing, man?
I'm well, man. How's it feel to be back in the operational flow of New Scooters for Life? That's how we spend our day today.
I tell you what, everybody... Things are a-changing. Things are super interesting right now.
They are changing.
Yeah, for everybody who's listening, it's been quite interesting trying to get ready for back to school. This episode airs on August 17th, and as we know, it's like right in that moment. School's starting on the 31st. Is that still happening, Sarah? Do you know? 31st? Is that accurate? So we got a couple weeks. This is like normally a time where it's super chaotic. It already feels chaotic at the dealership. We are super, super low on help. And trying to figure out how we're going to keep like all these hundreds of people from like swarming into the dealership all at the same time. It's been challenging, because of, COVID. The thing that we like to blame everything on COVID. It actually kind of feels good. I feel like I'm getting like a refresher.
It's strange, right?
Yeah.
Like
explain to everybody kind of what's like happened, like what role you're kind of playing right now.
Yeah, I mean, we could go into a whole podcast episode just with this. What's up? Our guest is already doing some social. So I'm playing the role of service manager today, and I will be for the foreseeable future. Just stuff that needs to happen, and we got a lot of demand. When you stop and think about it, the amount of scooters we put on the road the last 3, 4, 5 years, it's in the thousands.
Yeah.
Thousands. And for our dealership, a couple techs, it's a lot of repairs to filter through a small amount of people. So
yep. And what's a little bit more unique about this year specifically is that a lot of these students have left their scooter sitting since March because all this COVID stuff started happening, and they were kind of like, oh, I'm gonna go home for a couple weeks. They left their scooter outside just sitting there. And
number one call right now is my scooter doesn't start and my lease ends at the end of the month.
Pick it up.
Can you pick it up?
Yeah. So it's been interesting. And you, like, Rusty, because machine, like lawnmowers, all this stuff, like you can't have those carbureted machines sitting around from March without operation. And, you got to cycle through that gas. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. It's just been a complete, I want to use the word disaster, but like organized, chaotic disaster.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's good to get back in it. I'd be lying if I said that that's what we wanted to do, because we have so much fun working on the business, but it's also eye-opening in some good ways, and kind of reinvent what we've done before. And it doesn't have to be a bad thing.
Yeah,
and I think we got a good mindset to tackle what's ahead.
My favorite entrepreneurial quote by Dory. Just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. It's like the best entrepreneurial quote ever.
What's the one from Heath Paget? If one door opens,
if one door closes, another one opens. Unless you close that door too.
So we're just trying to keep the doors open.
Just trying to keep the doors open and just keep treading water.
That's right.
Yeah, at least we're still in business at this point. And
honestly, though, super thankful for that. There's a lot of people that really maybe didn't make it, and we can sit here and not complain, but you know what I mean. Like we're fortunate to have a business that,
with all of these problems,
with these problems that we can come to, and is still providing for us and our team and everything. So I'm certainly it's humbling,
Yeah. So enough about our problems. We're going to talk about Rusty's problems today.
I've got a lot of those. He's going to tell us how we can ride our own ship.
Let's get into the show. Yeah, so we're gonna get right into it. I'm excited, man. You guys, today on the show we have my friend Rusty Thompson, owner of the Masters Lawn Care, a company that specializes in complete landscape management, weekly maintenance, pest control, irrigation, and installation. You guys really do it all, and you guys it's primo work.
You might say they're masters.
They are masters.
That's what we try and do.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. Dude, welcome to our show, man.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm glad we can finally make this happen. And you guys, I mean, so the Masters Lawn Care does all of our stuff here at the dealership. So thank you for that, by the way. It looks fantastic. Climbed up on top of the roof and got the vines down too, which is interesting. We got like these weird vines that are kind of growing into the showroom at this point, into the building. Yeah, it's a little awkward, but yeah, man,
that was a cool job.
Yeah, that's cool. So anyway, so you know our spiel. You listen to our show. You're the man. I love you, dude. Like, let's go.
You too, man.
So you know our spiel. We like to start with a story, man.
Yeah.
Like let's take it back.
How far you want to go back?
Dude, as far as you want to take us,
I was
man.
born at AGH.
Really?
Yeah. So you want to talk about ACRs.
Okay.
Like I'm a real deal ACR.
You are. Okay. Yeah. Let's start it, man. Let's go.
Man. So I was raised in Melrose, raised on a farm, and my dad owned a real estate business in Melrose. He was a real estate broker. And I just kind of always assumed that that's what I was going to go in. That was the family business. It was called Red Thompson Realty. I assumed it was going to be called Rusty Thompson Realty and just keep on rolling. And, life changed. At like 1998, I was a junior in high school and my dad passed away unexpectedly. And so that like completely altered my career and where I thought I was going. And so from there, God just really led, and I became a retail store manager of a Nextel dealership, a Nextel cell phone dealership, and I did that for a little while. Actually sold Aaron Bosshart some cell phones back in the day.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just crazy connection there. And became the store manager of Lids in Oaks Mall. May have sold you a hat or two. I don't know. Maybe even the perfect bill. I don't know.
Dude, I had the Lids card.
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah.
It was like a whole card or like some membership
20% off, $5 card.
I was a member.
Yep. Yeah. Passport Club is what that was called.
Passport Club. Yep. That's right.
So I was in retail store management, and I was 22, and the district manager in training at 32 years old was told he was too young to be promoted to district manager. And when they told him that, I'm here like thinking at 22, 10 years behind him. So I'm 10 years away from being told that I'm too young for a promotion.
Dang.
So right then I kind of decided like, listen, I'd always wanted to own my own business. That was kind of the plan. But, life changed, and here it was again, and life's going to change. I do not want this for my future. I was kind of already frustrated with being inside all the time. I made to be outdoors is what I enjoy. It's what I love. And so right then I decided I wanted to open a landscape business. I'd done landscaping a little bit for my dad and real estate properties. He'd have a new listing or rental property.
Okay, so what year was this? Like right
This
around?
is 2004.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'd done landscaping for him, loved working outside, but that was back in high school when I'd done that. I'd worked one summer for a company here in town. And I just decided that retail wasn't where I was going to go, because I wasn't going to wait 10 years to be told I was too young for a promotion. So immediately started, I actually bought a Yellow Page ad. If y'all remember the talking phone book, wasn't Bell South. That was the high dollar phone book. We're talking back in the Yellow Page. You want to talk marketing. We're talking like the cheap, right, marketing, the cheap the Yellow Pages.
Believe it or not, there's people who still market in the Yellow Pages. You would be surprised, but they still spend that money.
So I paid $300 a month for an ad in the Yellow Pages, and my first call was from a client that lives at 55th and 23rd, which is the red light before you get to Buchholz, if you're kind of familiar with that area, right? Yeah. This guy had remodeled his whole house. So this is my first job, right? First job. This guy had remodeled his whole house, painted his whole house, put a new roof on it, put a new fence, new driveway, stained concrete driveway, semicircle driveway, and it made this house on the corner, which was kind of a crap hole, into a really, really nice house. And all I did was lay sod, put mulch down, put a couple plants in, and start cutting it. And you want to talk about marketing? I have no marketing sense at all. The guy comes outside and says, hey, man, this is a pretty busy red light. You give me 10% off my monthly bill. I'll let you put a sign out front. Hey, that'll work. I'll make a sign and get it put out front. Put it out front. I got calls, so many calls. I still to this day will have people be like, hey, Masters Lawn Care, didn't you do that job at like that road 55th and 23rd right there over there by Buchholz? We got so much work. We ended up getting Buchholz High School. That was the school. That was the client that put me over the edge to go full time.
Okay.
Into landscaping. We still have them as a client today, Buchholz High School.
Dang.
Yeah. So just kind of that's the story, man. That's how I got in it full time, and how I got in landscaping and working outside and loving what I do.
So the Masters Lawn Care, is that like a franchise?
It is not.
It's not. This is yours.
It's mine.
Okay.
Well, it's the Masters.
Masters. Okay. Dang, dude. Like, then I got to give you mad props, because like I almost, when you see it, like when I see it out on the road, I see your trucks and stuff, it feels like a franchise. You know what I mean? Like you see like just this unified look and branding and clean, like you've done a really excellent job, man. It's pretty awesome.
I appreciate that. I would love to take ownership of that. That is not for me. I've got a awesome team that really helps with the marketing and the branding and doing quality work, and I just kind of get to sit here and do podcasts and talk about it.
Yeah, that's what we do too.
Would you still be advertising in the phone book if it wasn't for them?
Possibly. I'm pretty old school. They laugh all the time. They say I should be in my 60s, but
okay. So you started in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're on the same. I mean, we're 16 years old. We started in 2004 too. I mean, a lot has changed in our community since 2004.
Yeah.
I mean, what's just been like the biggest, we'll call it the whoa factor.
Sure.
Was it like over 16 years, when you look back at everything that's happened in your career and with your business, like what's been like the thing that's just been like, whoa?
I would say, let me ask you a question to kind of clarify this question.
Okay.
Is this a whoa about how the business grew?
Do I think
or like what I learned about the community, or
so it's so interesting that you asked that, because like I just love the fact that it can be whatever you really want it to be. Like, because for a lot of people, when you ask a question like that, they go, man, you know what? My mind instantly goes back to when like everything crashed in like 2007 or 8,
Sure.
So where people's minds go when they're asked a question like that. I don't know, like what's been the biggest surprise? What's been the biggest, the thing that really made it take off, or like the year that you remember the most? Like what's that whoa moment for you?
I think
this should be like almost a question, because since we're like the WHOA podcast, we should almost like have this as like the question that we end with or something.
Right.
It needs to be like, what's been your whoa moment?
What makes me say whoa? Okay. So I would have to say the amazement of watching people on the team develop and grow and change. And I mean, I just think of team members that walked in the door, and I think of like when they first walked in, and we've got team members that are actually now past team members that are now competitors in our same industry, and we help them out, and we're on the same team, but they're technically in the same industry as another competing business. I've got team members that are literally leaving right now and have developed, has become all the way from beginning as being an administrative assistant and now moving on and opening their own plant business, an interior plant business. The amazing ways that I get to see people grow and develop personally and professionally, that's what makes me say whoa.
Cool.
So what got you interested in the lawn care business in the first place? Did you have a passion about it? Was it something that you looked around and was just like, oh, there's a void for this? Or
Yeah, so I would say three things. One, I love working outside. Two, I had experience in it. And three, it was a low barrier for entry. I mean, I started out on like shoestring budget, right? Mm-hmm. So I was introduced in that same year, 2004, to two things: Crown Financial Ministries, which is kind of a Christian-based like financial ministry, and then Dave Ramsey. So those two things were like pay.
We're listening to like Dave Ramsey like so much right now.
Yeah,
thanks to Sherman. And like
he's a rock star. So those two influences on me like had me like saving money, living on a budget, getting out of debt, and all these things. And then you like try and open a business while you're trying to get out of debt. Like it's not easy. So it was shoestring budget, and for landscaping, all you need is really a shovel and a wheelbarrow
and you know what else?
Little equipment.
The grass grows a lot in Florida.
I'm going to get to some summer tips later. Yeah, I can't wait for that.
It like just keeps growing. It's like, dang.
So, yeah, and there was also a big need in the industry. Like I feel like if you spoke with anybody from the months of probably April to October, the one thing that everybody could complain about is either it's too hot to work in my yard or my lawn guy sucks. And you hear about that a lot. And that's not a cut down to the industry. It's just kind of the reality of it. And so I thought there was a big opportunity there to make a difference.
So, but talk to me about like the competitive side of this, because there's just a lot. Like when I look at let's just spit it real, right? Like well, there's 3 scooter dealerships. I mean, there's been a lot more. We've had as many as 7 or 8, and they've like gone out. But we got like, 2 really main competitors, right? And but when you like look at like lawn care companies, I mean, there's a lot.
There is.
Right? So like, what are the things that you guys are doing that really kind of differentiate yourself from the rest of the group? And then even, how did you even determine what those things were? Like, you know what I mean?
Sure. So it's, I lived in a condo at that time, and this is relevant because at the condo, I was the president of the condo association, and I'd hired a company. And I'm not going to name the company. They're still in business, and actually friendly with a guy, but we had to terminate our contract with him because the value that we had versus the price that we paid just didn't match. It doesn't mean that the price was too high. It just meant the value wasn't there in the service. And so I was looking at other companies, and I'm meeting with these companies, and I'm getting quotes, and there's quotes all over the map. And I just didn't really get any professional vibe from any of them. And I thought, man, this is an opportunity. I mean, I can walk into this industry and add a ton of professionalism right off the bat. There's just so much opportunity that, I just saw that we could make a difference. And so that was where it was kind of born.
Okay.
Right there in the middle of that frustration with what was going on in my retail store job, and I like working outside, and I want to own my own business, and then I start getting quotes, and I'm like, this just doesn't add up. I mean, there's something missing here. Yeah. And so I wanted to be that missing piece. So what do we do that makes us different, and how does that inform our competition? You're right. If you drive up down 441 here, you may pass, if it's about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, like 12 different lawn companies, but we really don't consider them our competitor, because in this industry, there's just so much business. I mean, you just look at the grass and get it, right? And so there's so much opportunity out there. It's really, you don't have to see people as a competitor. If you just offer a quality service at the right price, and some people aren't our clients and they are theirs, it's kind of like restaurants. There's a million different restaurants, but if you open one, you offer a good service and professionalism, people are going to come. So
yeah. So when I think about this business, there's always, I don't know, when I think about any business, like there's something that happens along the way that you never thought would ever happen, or that you never expected to happen, right? What's been that thing for you? Like, and I'm talking about like industry related. Like when you started this business, you never would have predicted that XYZ was going to happen, and it happened.
That's a good question. I would say that one of the, probably everybody answers this. And the first thing that comes to mind, but I don't want to be like everybody else, is I had no idea that we could get to this size. Like I didn't know that. I knew there was a lot.
What does that mean by size? You're talking about team members, talking about amount of revenue, gross sales,
all of the above. So I thought it could be, just a small business that could feed my family and help some team members, have jobs and just do like a lot of the other lawn companies here. I just had no idea that we would grow the way we grew. And it's all based on our team members and our clients, which are amazing. But that really is the biggest factor that I'm just like, I didn't see this.
Okay. So for you in that stage, do you like look at that and you're like, okay, like let's go harder, like more, or one of the things that I've kind of learned over my career is a term that I've heard called controlled growth, something that I really didn't know much about. Because I was very much the guy who's like, like let's go more sales, and you don't really realize it at the time when you're doing a lot. But sometimes more sales doesn't necessarily mean more profit.
It does not.
Right. So, has your more sales meant more profit? And, or how are you kind of like evaluating that and kind of gauging this growth opportunity?
Yeah, so I can answer that in 2 ways. In 2011, no. As a matter of fact, in 2011, we had grown every year, right? 6-7 years in, we had grown every year over the last year. And every year we had actually made less money for 4 years in a row. So it was like, okay, more sales, more work, more headaches, more team members, more equipment to break, all this stuff, but less profit and less on the bottom line. And I reached out and I joined a green industry peer group with a bunch of other landscape business owners from all across the country, non-competing markets. And in 2011, the first thing they kind of told me was, raise your prices, get more efficient, and find more ways that you can offer services while you're on that job. So take that one client, you have to make more dollars per client, you have to make more dollars per hour, and you have to find a way to make your team more efficient. So better tools, whatever the case is, just do whatever you can. But that's the key, because we lost money for 4 straight years and grown. We actually dropped some of our biggest clients. So it's kind of an oxymoron, right? Like you want to grow your bottom line, but you drop your biggest clients. We dropped 2 apartment complexes the first month that I was in that group. And that changed the trajectory of the company, those lessons and learning what we do well.
What specifically? Was it just because the margin was so slim and you're like doing all this work? It was taking too many hours? Like what were you looking at in that?
Yeah, so it's man hours. So for our business, in any service business really, but especially in maintenance, we don't sell a scooter. We don't sell a product, a hamburger, or whatever you want to talk about. Like we sell a service. And so it comes down to what we call SPH. Some people would call efficiency. It comes down to dollars per hour, right? So what are you bringing in for every labor hour you put out? That's the bottom line, because we sell a service. So if it takes us, and I'll just, rough numbers, if it takes us 2 man hours, not crew hours, 2 man hours to mow a lawn, right? And that client pays us $50, we made $25 per man hour, right? And the key to increase profitability is to increase that dollar per man hour. That's what it comes down to. And so instead of using the 36-inch mower, maybe you use a 48-inch mower, right? Instead of using the push mower, you use a walk behind so the guys aren't getting as fatigued. So you just maximize your efficiency. I also had 4 guys riding around in a truck doing residential lawns. They're like tripping over each other doing properties, right? So we had to buy more vehicles, which is, again, counterintuitive, right? But to put 2 guys in a truck so they can do better service while they're there and not have wasted man hours because they both finished doing the job in 15, 20 minutes. But now I got 2 guys sitting in the truck while the other 2 guys blow off for 10 minutes. That's wasted 20 minutes times 10 jobs a day, right? That's 200 minutes. It's a lot of time.
Does the team get paid like per job then? No. So you're paying them per hour.
I wish we could do that, but we kind of played around with that, and we lost a lot of our quality in the, and you have to balance that, right? Like quality and efficiency. Like you want efficient, but you can have like 100% efficiency. You can have a really high SPH if you don't show up and do the job. Like somebody pays us $100 to mow their lawn or to spray their lawn or to plant the shrub, and we just don't show up. You have a really high efficiency rating, but then you're going to get fired. Right. So the next week you're not going to have a job to go do, right? And the balance on the other side is you can get paid $100 to do that lawn, right? And you can go there and spend all day doing it, and you get, SPH is $10 per hour, but you paid the guy $16, so you lost money. You got to find a way to balance in the middle there, and that's the key: balance efficiency and quality.
Okay. So I guess like my mind's going like, I'm like trying to picture like guys driving around town and like how I'm holding them accountable to like getting this stuff done in an efficient manner. Like, cause you're not like, your guys, when they come out to my house and they're cutting the grass, like you're not there like breathing down their neck.
You're right.
Right. So like, how are you ensuring that that they're doing an excellent job, which they do?
Sure.
Which is, like.
So what's fantastic. Our quality control?
It's like, what's the quality control? Like, and then how are you like basing the time spent? So if it's a 2-hour job, like are you just looking at yard size? Like, how are you determining, okay, this is a 2-hour job,
sure.
and then those guys end up taking 2.5 hours?
Sure.
Like, what's the discussion like? Is there a discussion? Is it like, oh, it's just going to happen? Like,
It depends on the season, but we have historical averages on all this, and all of our trucks have GPS on them, so we know how long, for example, they were here at your property, and we know how many guys were in the truck. So we can figure all that out pretty quickly using some of the tools that we have. The other piece that I would say to that is the quality control piece is extremely important, and it all comes down to the account manager. And we have a department manager who's in charge of the efficiency efficiency and quality control and hiring and firing of the guys. And then we also have, and again, every department is different, but talking more specifically about the maintenance department, which most people are familiar with, then we also have account managers that go and check those properties and based on the size of them, how many times per year. So, a big commercial complex or like an apartment complex, they're going to get a quality control inspection once a month, right? And a residential property can get a quality control inspection once every 3 months, once a quarter.
I get it every week with me.
Exactly.
I was gonna say, I don't want you to give away your secrets or anything, but how often are you checking that GPS for accountability? Is it something that you have built in, or is it something that you only do whenever you suspect?
No. So two answers there. We check the GPS in detail for one crew per week, just making sure things are being done right. Like for example, they're clocked out for a 30-minute lunch. We want to make sure that's not an hour and 30-minute lunch, little things like that. But then so there's one crew, they're looking at that GPS report per week, but we look at the SPH every week. And that's a real easy figure because it's just clocking.
Okay, real quick for our listening audience, just in case they missed it, what is SPH?
Sales per hour.
SPH. So you're saying sales per hour.
Sales per hour. So that comes down to, again, that $100, project or job or whatever, and it took 2 hours to do. So that's your sales is $100.
You see how I kind of blame that on the audience? Like, just in case you guys, just in case the audience missed that, I'm SPH.
We're looking at you.
Looking at you guys. Not that I missed it, but just in case you guys missed it.
Well, this is stuff that I speak every day. So
right,
it's
That's just my way of blaming it on the audience in case they missed it. Not that I missed it, but you guys. Okay, moving on. Sales per hour. Mm-hmm. That's what we're looking at. That's our metric.
Exactly.
This is the accountability measure. You're able to look at the averages.
Efficiency accountability, and then there's the quality accountability, which is that quality control inspection. And that's graded on a 1 to 10. And if you're anything below a 6, you're going back. So and then let's say they did your yard on Thursday and we do the quality control inspection on Friday. We're like, this property does not look up to our standards. It's below that rating. They're going back on Friday. And got some pissed off guys on Friday.
On their own time kind of deal? Or?
No, they're paid. No, they're paid, but they don't want to work late on a Friday.
Okay.
Okay. So the reason, we're here, we're really diving into a lot of service stuff, right?
Sure.
Because we can relate. I hope we're not boring our audience out there talking about the service-based business. Talking shop, but we're very similar. We have techs and they work on scooters and they get, we've been kind of moving from an hour, where we pay an hourly rate. That's I was kind of asking you, do you pay per job? Because we are kind of testing that right now. I've had other dealerships and they say that's the only way to do it. It's okay, this job, this is an hour and a half job. It pays an hour and a half. If they do it in an hour, they still get paid an hour and a half. However, if they do it in 2 hours, you're still paying them an hour and a half, So I'm starting to see the benefits in that for us.
Sure.
It's almost like you're holding them accountable through the system, right? I don't have to be breathing down their neck to make sure that they're not spending an extra half hour when we quoted, that they're not spending 2 hours on a 1.5 hour job that we're being paid for, right?
Sure.
So I don't know. It's super interesting to kind of hear. I know it's completely different industries, but I think that's what's so great and rewarding for a lot of the people who do listen. It's you can kind of pull bits and pieces into your own business.
And I think they're a little bit different, even though they're both service. So your product or your service is here. And if that scooter starts and it didn't start when it came in, it starts when it leaves, the guy did his job, right? The guy or gal, they did the job right. Ours is not at our shop. Ours is all throughout Gainesville and Newberry and Alachua. So there's a little more of the needing to make sure that the quality's there and not wanting to push so hard on that efficiency. Because if you just push too far on efficiency, you just have a lot of problems. And there is that piece. And you mentioned, the quality control at your property is yourself because you're looking at it when they're done man, they did a good job or they can't believe they missed that. I've been looking at that for a week. What happened, right? Our clients will call us, especially during COVID. Everybody's home and they notice. But they call us and they let us know. And the way we respond to that is, we don't get frustrated with those complaints. We just want to make it right. And we can't fix it if we don't know it ain't right.
So did COVID give you guys a spike?
Yeah.
It did, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm telling you right now. So I called Rusty to like come and do like a complete overhaul of my house because
You're sitting
if
there
you guys
staring at the weeds.
any of our listeners who were like listening to or watching, I would say rather watching, if you're watching the coronavirus sessions, right? And we were doing these coronavirus sessions via Zoom. Here I am. I'm like, I'm doing them on my back porch. You're like, everyone's like, oh yeah, I heard the birds chirping in the background. Like we had like all sorts of noises, and man, every time I was back there with this laptop, I'm recording, doing the Zoom podcast. I'm like looking at my yard, and I'm like, this place is a disaster. How did I even let it get to this point? And I just know, I mean, that happened for everybody. Everybody's at home and they're working from home. And it's just like, oh my gosh, look at my yard. Like, this is atrocious. Like, I should do something about this. So that actually led to like an increase for you guys?
So it led to an increase in negative situations and an increase in positive situations. I'll talk about both.
Yeah.
We can be real transparent here, right?
Yeah.
So like the negative situation was, you know, clients that usually go to work at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning and come home at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the evening, and they don't really look at their yard because they're need to get home and spend time with the family. And they may be out in the yard one time a week. Now they're out in their yard like a lot during the week because they're like, they got kids in the house driving them crazy. They're like, I gotta get out and make some calls. I'm gonna go walk, and they're looking, right? And so they're just seeing things that they haven't seen before, asking questions they haven't asked. So that naturally brought on a lot more questions, a lot more calls, not necessarily a ton of complaints, but just a lot more scrutiny, right, of the stuff. The other side of that, the positive side, so that was the negative side, and we dealt with that, and it's great because it allowed us to provide a lot of coaching to our team and make sure that we provided excellent value. I mean, that's huge, right? To have that much, we could see it as a negative or we can see it as an opportunity. And the opportunity was there to show them that we're different than other green industry
He's so much
companies,
better
right?
than I am. I hear an answer like that. I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, you guys need to do better, dang it. I'm getting like all these calls, you know, like I'm just thinking about how I would handle that. I need to take a lot more notes here. I'm just saying.
And then the positive side of that is people like you, right? Like they're like, I want to do something with my yard. Like I can't go on this vacation. I can't go on this trip that I'd hoped to go on. I'm spending more time at home. And kind of a negative side of that is I don't want people in my house. So I'm not going to remodel my kitchen. I don't want people in my house. Where can I invest at my home, but not in my home? Your yard, right? So we did a bunch of paver installs, a bunch of patios, fire pits, cleaned up backyards, things that people had just noticed that they hadn't let go, but they hadn't spent enough time to notice. And so that the coronavirus kind of gave them some time at home to notice and gave us the opportunity to fix it, which is cool. However, the other side effect of that, and then this goes back into the negative, was those paver installs. Mm-hmm. They take a whole lot longer when the client's home and they're asking questions about every little process, right? Like, I don't know if you have this in your shop here, but every mechanic I've ever been to has been like, you know, it's this much per hour if we fix your car, and it's this much per hour if you want to wash, right? And I wish we had that conversation with some of them because they want to be out there a lot.
Did you have many clients pause or cancel because, you know, they were displaced by their jobs or furloughed or laid off or anything? Was that
we had several. So a big part of our business, unfortunately, for them was hotels. And I mean, hotels were hugely affected. You think about the hotel industry, and I mean, they went from, you know, expecting college graduations and all this kind of stuff and having an influx of income, and they went to like zero. Right, and they're looking at cutting left and right. We had a high-end hotel that literally cut their service from once a week to once every 2 months. Damn. And that was just to like keep us on the property. And we're talking about April, May, like grass is growing. We're not talking about January. We service a bunch of restaurants in town. And I mean, restaurants took a huge hit. They paused services and they just let their grass grow because they're closed. What does it matter? And they don't have any income coming in. So yeah, we did have some of that. Thankfully, 99% of those restarted service right back as soon as things started going the other direction.
That's good.
When they had to do that, like go from a weekly service, say, to a once every 2 months, did the cost of the job change because of the condition it was in?
We could have done that, and we really debated because it did take, you know, not twice as much work. Yeah,
right.
I mean, cutting the grass is the same whether it's this tall or this tall. most of the time, within reason. But the shrubs, the weeds, all the other things that make a quality landscape did take twice as much time. And we really debated that. We're like, we're not going to kick them while they're down. What our real end goal is not short term, not making money per job over the next 3 months while we fight through this. We didn't know it was going to be 6 months, but or maybe longer. Of
course.
But the end goal was to stay on the property, keep them a happy client with what we can provide them, and let's get the other side of this and have a long-term client. And that's what was out. Long-term relationships.
Right.
It's good.
Does the neighborhood lawn kid still exist? Is that still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And actually, I get the opportunity to lead some freshman boys at our church, Anthem Church. And so one of them is starting his own business. He's asking me details. And he's like, hey, Rusty, man, you can help coach me up. And I'm mowing a yard right next to your guys right now. I'm like, oh, that ought to be my client. But yes, they do exist. And it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Then you're like, my consulting fee is $350 an hour, kid.
I take percentage of profit.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
No, that's so. I mean, that's gonna. I mean, it's just great that you're investing that time into others. Those entrepreneurial coaches. I mean, we need more of them, honestly.
We do.
In today's society. So it's really, really cool that you're doing that. Man, like, just kind of like thinking, all this COVID stuff. So I mean, it sounds like things are like getting back to normal, because you say a lot of these accounts are restarting. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, are your sales up from last year? Like, have you done better because of it, or did it kind of even out because of the accounts that dropped, and then you got the people who are like looking at their lawn saying, right, man, I got to do something about this?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it really depends on the department, right? So we have 4 kind of fundamental departments, which is maintenance, lawn health, which is the spraying and pest control on the lawn, and then landscape installation, and then irrigation. So out of those 4 departments, landscape is up pretty heavily, right? Because that's where people are spending more time at home and can invest in their home, and it's not people in their home, it's at their home, right? Maintenance took a dip as far as growth took a dip, like the trajectory of our growth pattern took a dip for 2 months, and now it's looking like it's lining back up. Again, I say that tentatively because it's only been about 4 weeks that it's looking like it's back up, but I think it's back up, hitting the numbers we're hitting. Lawn health actually spiked in a positive direction. I think that comes down to being at home and noticing more weeds in the lawn, more problems, and like, my lawn's not green, and maybe before they didn't see it because they weren't there or whatever, and so they called us, and that's been great. Irrigation is down a little bit, and that's mostly weather related, I think. I mean, how much rain have we gotten recently, right? So it's been a ton of rain, even though it's been hot, and so irrigation's been a little down.
That's something you got to track like yearly, right?
Exactly.
So you know exactly, what the average rainfall is, say, compared.
Yeah, you can watch our sales spike based on the rainfall doing the opposite.
And you're tracking that data?
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
That's my kind of data. I like that kind of stuff.
Mike is like my data guy. Like,
is this Mike's writing?
No, honestly, like that's mine. Like, that's like and Rusty's referring to the whiteboard that's behind me in our office. Like, that's kind of like my very basic data. It's like very, black and white. It's like sales. Like, this was last year. This is this year. So, like, I mean, it's like very, very straightforward. Yeah. Mike is like my guy who knows exactly how many green scooters we sold on this day 4 years ago. Like, that's what I rely on him for, Am I right?
So do y'all use the disc? Are you?
This is, honestly, it's as crude as it gets. It's like literally me staring at an Excel sheet, and because I want to know, and it's not formal. It's just,
it's his stuff. Like, he's put it together.
I stare at it and want to know because he'll, working for Collin, it's like, he could pop into my text messages or Slack messages or come by the office and say something at any given moment, and it's much better for me to be able to answer the question than to need to take a lot of time and dive into it. So I just try to keep it at the ready.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. No, when I said disc, I meant like personality assessment.
Right.
So you got to be a high C.
I don't think I've ever done it. It's not the first time it's come up. Like, I'm gonna have to do it.
What do you think I am?
But
dude, you're all I. No question.
I?
Yeah, influencing, man. That's all you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, Craig Wilburn, when we did the episode 100,
Yep.
he was like, you're all DI, he's like, you're D, and he's right. Like, that's exactly what I am. You're right. D.
You got a higher D than I?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just don't see that side of you, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No.
That's awesome, man.
Or maybe it's not. I don't know. I'll have to double check. I'll double check while he's asking a question. Like, I can probably pull it up because I probably got to say it
Also, go back and listen to episode 111 where you get to know Collin really well with Lauren Douglas's interview.
Oh, yeah.
That's coming.
Lauren's great. Yeah.
So how is your? I'll go back to the team thing. So I've got two main bullet points I want to hit, and one is I can't wait to hear some summer lawn tips. So I'll let you go ahead and start thinking about that. But how has your leadership changed over the years when you started and where things are at now? Like, how have you changed as a person? How do you invest into yourself as a leader? Like, what does that look like?
Okay, so I'm a personality growth junkie, so that's me. But investing in my team is a little bit different, and the investment in a team is more along, like I see it as one of my jobs to not just help them develop professionally, which that's something I have to do, is they have to grow professionally, but to help them grow personally. And so some leadership things we do with our team to keep them growing is we do every year different financial courses, because the biggest problem we see with blue collar guys, the biggest problem we see is financials. It comes down to not understanding the basics of money management, and nobody's ever taught them. It's not their fault, and I'm not going to get into political debate here, but man, like how do we teach them in high school all these so much stuff, but we don't teach them the basics of a budget and the dangers of a credit card? Like, how do we do that? We teach them all these things, math and calculus and algebra, but we don't teach them how to balance a checkbook and when there's too much month at the end of the money. Like, what do we do? Right. And so I feel like it's my job to really set these guys and their families up for success with some fundamental financial training, getting out of debt, fixing their credit. A lot of it's based on Dave Ramsey principles. But it's really, really boiled down into classes. We do some relationship coaching. We bring in some trained relationship advisors and just give them coaching on how to communicate with their children, how to communicate with their wives, and how to improve their relationships. We had the opportunity to do that. We do most of this in the winter, because in the summer, the last thing they want to see is me on a Saturday or on a Friday. Like, they want to go home. But most of this stuff is done in the winter. But that's a lot of what we do to help develop leadership on our team and develop them. Because if you're growing them professionally and they can identify more plants and know how to spray the lawn and know how to identify the weed and identify the pest and plant the shrub, that's great and all. But if their life's in shambles outside of the work, their work life's going to be in shambles too. So trying to help improve that in ways is the way we really lead.
That's awesome. I mean, we've been talking about doing very much a similar thing here. So even talking about the Lauren Douglas episode, I mean, one of the things that I pointed to was the fact that we have so much company debt. I've been looking and thinking about, where are we going? I'm like, man, we got this company debt, and it's weighing us down. We can't really have the things that we want because of this. And then I have it in I have my own personal debt, and then I know that all my team members have it too. And it's just man, we gotta get this off of our plate.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So it's really, really cool that you do that. It's definitely something that I want to start implementing here. It's just coaching on that stuff. And I'm really, and this is what I said in that episode, I'm really disciplined with, I've been out of debt several times. What I end up doing, which is not what I should be doing, is that I end up bringing the business debt onto myself. It's because you can get 15% no interest for
Sure. Sure.
It's let me just take this debt and put it on my plate to relieve the business. So I don't know, so interesting. I've been on a Dave Ramsey kick too, so it's great.
Yeah.
I mean, because we had Sherman Merrick's on the show, and he got into that. We talked about a lot of financial stuff, which has been kind of a common theme, and I think a lot. That theme is starting to pop up more, I think, because of 2020, because of COVID. A lot of people losing their jobs, a lot of people, realizing that they need to manage their money better.
Because you don't notice the need for an emergency until you have
an emergency,
right? I mean, that's what 2020 has been. Is has there been an emergency we haven't had yet this year?
Right.
Now we got a hurricane out in the.
It's I'd say too,
come on.
Sometimes that pause and. Everybody's had a different story with how COVID has impacted them, but that pause, that ability to kind of have some introspection and analyze yourself, where maybe it's the go that you end up burying yourself in a deeper hole and not even realizing it, but having the opportunity to sit back and kind of spend more time with the family and kind of get a bird's eye view of your situation, I think can actually be a very helpful thing. And I think people are experiencing that too. Why it's coming up is because as they're doing long, hard looks inside.
Oh yeah. I mean, you take a weekend when you usually have all these things planned. I don't know if y'all live like that, but I mean, it's like, I look at my calendar, I'm like, oh, you want to do something? I'm busy for the next 16 weekends, but
Right.
17th weekend looks free. I got like between 2 and 4 p.m. on Saturday afternoon. Like, so all that stopped. And now you got the weekends and you're like spending time with your family at your house. And yeah.
And the best thing that I've learned, and I'm no, student of Ramsey yet, but like it's the behavioral changes. It's getting it into your DNA. And I think even when you talk about the behavioral phenomenon behind debt snowball, it's, he says all the time, it's not the optimum way to do it, but it's the right way to do it because it helps.
That's right.
You're building the behavioral thing. And I think some of these things too, it's like once you get a little bit of momentum making the right decisions, it starts to become addicting because you know you're doing it right.
Yeah.
And if you can keep that momentum going, then that's the progress. That's the train that's going forward.
That's right. Life's all about momentum. And yeah, if you can get in a debate with people that are like, but pay the highest interest loan.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah, that's always fun to listen.
I mean,
Yeah.
like I've even had those conversations with you. I'm
Yeah.
like, I follow his philosophy to a point. Like if I have, one credit card at $9,000, and the other one's at $10,000, but this one has no interest and it's at $10,000.
Dave Ish.
like whatever. Like
He's the Dave Ish guy.
I'm probably, at least right now, I'm probably like Dave-ish, like on stuff, like because I'm like, dude, I'm gonna like pay off the interest credit card first.
We will have a Ramsey personality on our podcast before episode 200.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah,
What?
that would be exciting.
throwing it out there. I'm not
put-
saying it's going to be
Get
Dave,
Chris
but it'll
Hogan.
be
No,
I'd
get
love
Chris-
Chris
to.
Hogan's
Yeah.
great. I'm reading his book
We'll
right
have a
now.
Ramsey personality.
Retire inspired.
The other one, the
Everyday Millionaire.
Everyday Millionaire.
Yeah.
I'm like halfway through it. It's really good.
That's good.
I just used one of my Audible credits for it. I haven't gotten into it yet. But
Yeah. No, it's really good. I
I'm
really.
still on baby step 2. But
What's funny is like, so you're talking about the momentum stuff. Like I can't sleep at night because I'm like thinking about getting out of debt.
Sure.
And so I've been like, and you're talking about being at home. Everybody at home with COVID. That's kind of, I'm like looking around my house. Like I could sell that picture. I could sell that picture. I could sell that. Like I'm like,
This mattress is a little too comfortable.
Yes.
I may have seen some of your stuff posted up for
Dude.
sale on Facebook.
Oh man, everybody who is connected to me has seen my stuff on Facebook. I'm like,
Y'all know Collin played the trumpet.
every marketplace. I sold 2 trumpets last weekend, man. Like they were gone. Like I mean, that was actually a little hard to sell those because that was like such a piece of my life for so long. It was a little bit tougher, but I was like, man, I can get some money for these, and I did. Like so, but I'm like walking around asking my wife, I'm like, what else can I sell? What else can I sell?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just funny. I'm like, we're gonna be minimalist by the time this. Like, have we're gonna empty house in a hot tub, like way back in the day. That's it. We don't have a hot tub right now, but. But we're not gonna have any like furniture or any like thing. I'm gonna just sell it all. Sell it all. I tell my kids, sell it all.
There's no sports, so you don't need the TV.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, let's let me dive into one thing that I've been pretty interested about with your team specifically.
Yeah.
Like when I look at this industry as a whole, and I'm sure you probably deal with this all the time, right? It's like the quality of your laborers, like the people who are doing this work, right? I know you got great training and stuff involved and
Sure.
and that kind of thing, but like when you like look at it and it's no doctor, like what I mean, like it's a hard working, you're out sweating.
That's
like
right.
it's labor work, right? But the thing that I've found fascinating with your company in particular is that any time I've had an interaction with one of these guys, it's been superb. Like,
Thank
what
you.
I mean? Like the conversation, they, and maybe it has a lot to do with some of the education stuff that you're doing, some of the trainings, things that you're doing. Like, I don't really know, but I'm really kind of interested how you get, what I would consider like a base level position, not to like discredit it by any means.
No,
like,
no.
I would never want to do it because I just don't want to like sweat outside. But like, how do you get somebody like that and this kind of maybe is reflected in the culture, like That's where I'm kind of going, like what is it? How do you get somebody like that? I don't know what they get paid. I don't know anything about it, but how do you get them so invested to when, like me as a homeowner, like ask them a question, it's like a super pleasant experience.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
That's a great question. And it took a while to get there. So we didn't start out there. I'm naturally cheap. That's why I like Dave Ramsey a lot, right? So I started out paying low wages and hiring anybody that come in the door. Matter of fact, my hiring method, it was really, really great. It was like fog up a mirror and hop in a truck, right? That was the hiring method. And if you can fog the mirror, then you can probably run a weed eater. Let's roll. But in 2015, we had a cultural shift, and it was a complete cultural shift, and it started from a book. I think it was called The Ideal Team Player. I think it's by Lencioni. I could be messing that up, but it's called The Ideal Team Player, and it basically talked about hiring people based on three things. And it talked about hiring people based on, are they humble, are they hungry, and are they people smart? And that doesn't mean smart like IQ. Like that doesn't mean anything. People smart, meaning do they know how to relate with people and understand how to get social cues and work in a cultural environment of a team and not think he's better than everybody, but humble, hungry, people smart. If you have those three things, it is not hard how to learn how to spray a lawn, plant a plant, do a landscape design, do maintenance. It's hard work, don't get me wrong, but it's not hard to learn. It's fairly easy entry into that. So the key is not finding people that know how to weed eat the best or know how to edge the best or know how to mow the best. We can train all of that. The key is finding the people that are humble, hungry, and people smart. If they're hungry, they can learn anything. If they're humble, they don't think they know it all, right? So they can learn anything. And when they deal with their team members, if they're people smart, they know how to build a positive culture. And in 2015, we started moving toward hiring based on those three things, and then training for skill. So hiring for character, training for skill, and it transformed our organization. There were a lot of other things. I'd love to say it was just one thing. We raised our wages, we increased our benefits, but all of that was kind of down the road as just kind of a natural shift more towards trying to get the right people with the right character in. But I mean, that was the key.
Or like, so you were talking about the DISC assessment, and I was right. I'm like heavy D. Just so you know.
That's awesome.
Just kind of, like, are you doing those kind of assessments or doing some sort of assessment in order to find the people who have those attributes? Like, how are you testing to find those specific attributes?
Couple different things. First off, interviewing. DISC assessments we use for our leadership and management team.
Okay.
But we do not do DISC assessments just for basis of cost for every team member that walks in the door. And it really comes down to, it's not the cost of the DISC assessment. That's pretty cheap. I think you can get them $20-25 a person. But you also have to train it if it's going to be of any value of all. Like for me to tell you, okay, well, you're a high D and a secondary of an I, and you walk in the door, you take that test. Now I know something about you, but that didn't tell you anything. You may think I'm weird or something. Like, what is he talking about? Right? So that doesn't do much, but or at least we don't utilize that for much for the total hiring thing. The piece that really changed was hiring based on the humble, hungry, people smart. We also learn about people more in a working interview, more than just a face-to-face interview. Because anybody can tell you anything when they're across the desk from you in air conditioning. But when you really find out if people are humble, hungry, and people smart is when it's 100 degrees and it's 100% humidity and you've been running a weed eater and it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon in a ditch. That's when you find out, like, okay, is this guy really humble? Is he really hungry? And does he really know how to get along with people on a team? Like, that's when you find that out. And that working interview has been key for us.
Okay. Dang.
So, and I guess I need to preface it. This is like the asterisk at the bottom. People get paid for working interviews. We don't just like it's not free labor.
Come on, this work interview.
It's not going to work
us.
out between us, but appreciate that.
But you can get a free day of work. Yeah.
So when you made that change, I'm interested because, and I want to be careful the way I say this because, I mean, I don't want to say it the wrong way, but when you make that change, did you find it hard to find, you're now identifying high character people, but was it hard to convince them or get them to want to, or were they willing to do labor-intensive jobs? And I say that because in our side, like a technician has a certain kind of personality. They like to work. The people that like to work with their hands and solve puzzles and stuff usually, and I don't like generalizations, but I'm making one anyway. Usually don't have the best interpersonal skills and stuff like that. It's why they like working with their hands and being to themselves. So when you start identifying high character people, what was the applicant pool like, at least in terms of people you wanted to move forward? Was it hard to get them to do labor jobs?
Well, the first piece of that, I think, is how do you qualify them for the hard labor? And if they're applying for a landscape position in Florida, they're probably willing to do labor. Not all of them, but most of them. So if they meet that, and then you're going to find that out in that working interview as well. So like, are they able to perform the work? There's some people that are totally willing, but they're not able, right? They're not able to handle the heat for whatever reason. And so that's what that working interview helps us figure out. But riding in the truck helps us figure out, are they a cultural fit? And then what they do on the yard tells us, can they handle the labor portion of it? And it's not so much about the skill. We can teach the skill, but are you willing to get out there in that triple-digit humidity and that heat and work all day?
I'm not.
You're not getting an application today.
I'm so glad somebody's willing to.
So, what are your?
So great.
Because you bring it up, and it's a great. Like, what are the safety procedures like? Like, how do you make sure that people don't overexert themselves on a job?
Oh yeah, we do a lot of training on heat stress. I mean, that's probably something we hit on about once every 6 weeks. So. A lot of that is based on just the weekly team meetings that we have that involve some safety coaching in there. And that's just talking about identifying the things, you get tingly, you get thirsty. If you get thirsty, get a drink.
And it's one of those things that you could have done this for years and still be vulnerable to it.
Yeah, we had a guy just the other week, one of our lawn techs spraying a lawn, and literally just like in the middle of the day, he's like, man, it hit him out of nowhere, just boom, face down in a lawn, like got dizzy and just out. And came to, and there was nobody with him. So that was like a big scare for us. Like, do we need to put 2 guys in a truck for lawn spray techs? And we found out, we targeted kind of what was wrong. He had worked on his engine on the spray truck and went down, and he'd worked on it. He usually drinks like 2 cups of water between every job. Well, when he worked on that engine for about an hour and a half, he didn't drink any water because he's frustrated with the engine. Then the next lawn he sprayed, dehydrated.
Right.
Yeah. So, but a lot of that is just training, recognizing when and what are the symptoms in my body. If I start feeling tingly, I start kind of feeling a little bit different, clammy, like get in the truck, get in the shade, and cool down.
All right. So we got to wrap it up in a second.
Yeah.
But my final question will be, so, you have, you said the freshman from Anthem Church. Okay. So you got like these people out, starting a business, and you've been doing this for 16 years now. So what's like your go-to advice for that entrepreneur, the person who's just now starting? Maybe it's a lawn care business, maybe it's not, maybe they're just starting business in general. Like, what is your go-to advice for the new entrepreneurs right now?
Coffee is for closers. That's it. You got to sell. If you don't sell, you don't have a job. That's it. Coffee's for closers.
Okay. So is that what you're spending the most of your time doing? Like
drinking coffee? Yes. Yeah. I like coffee.
Like coffee, meetings, networking, trying to build new relationships, trying to close more deals. Like where's your time as a leader being spent now that you've been doing this for 16 years? Yeah.
So it's spent about 50% in sales and about 50% with my team just managing.
Okay.
Yeah. And I fight regularly with that. Should I spend more time leading and managing and setting up systems? That's not my strength. I think every business owner has to play to their strengths, right? And then hire for your weaknesses. And my strengths are in selling, and my weaknesses are in systems and the details. Like you're a detail guy, I'm not a detail guy, right? So that's not my strength, but I'm going to play to my strengths and then hire people on our team that can shore up my weaknesses.
How long did it take you to identify that?
That's a good
I'm
question.
still identifying
Okay.
that. I was literally wrestling with it today. Like, man, should I really be doing this much in sales? Like, I feel like as a business owner, I ought to be like going over the P&L more often or going over this. And I'm not saying that's not important. And I'm not saying I don't do that, but I don't know that I invest enough time in that. And I hear these guys in my business networking groups, and I'm and Lauren's in Vistage, and so like you hear these guys and they're talking about how much they watch their numbers, and if you're not spending hours on your P&L every week, you're not a good business owner. And I'm like, man, wow, I feel kind of guilty.
Thanks.
Right? Exactly. But so I think it comes down to your strengths.
Yeah, I mean, I just like, I feel like a terrible business owner so many times. You're like,
I think we all do.
you almost have to get used to the feeling, you know? Like all you can do is realize that you're human too, and you have to like grow from whatever the experience is, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like with this week, I mean, even us, Mike being in on the ground floor of the service, and I'm getting back on the ground floor of the sales, and there's been a lot of hiccups because of 2020. Like, is school going to start? Is school not going to start? Do we hire? Do we not hire? Like, I really empathize with all of my fellow business owners out there that are really trying to make the decisions that are best for their business and navigate this COVID thing. Like, it's been an ongoing headache for me personally.
Yeah.
Like, it just has been. I feel like I'm changing my mind almost every hour. It's like, all right, do we need to hire these people? Yeah. And a lot of it, like I say hiring, like a lot of it has to do with hiring. And I was like, man, like I feel like we need more people. But then I'm also like, man, like school's like right around the corner, and
It often feels like there is no right decision. It's just trying to make the least wrong decision.
There you go.
yeah.
And that's a terrible mindset to have, I think.
Yeah.
But that's what it feels like.
But I think that's what business owners and managers, that's what we live life like, right? Like we can go from, that's what classifies us or characterizes us as going from like the mountaintop to like the deepest low in like 15 minutes. My wife is like, how did you do that? You were like super excited about this new client and like they're the biggest client you've ever had. And then you immediately went to, oh my God, how are we going to get this right? Like, how are we going to do this job? Like, I don't even know what we're going to do. She's like, how do you do that? I'm like, I don't know. It's what I do like pretty much 24/7.
Anybody that's ever like woke up ready to start the day and rolled over to a text message by somebody calling out knows exactly how to go from high to low real fast.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then like I could just keep going down this rabbit hole, and then like I feel like a bad person because, like, and this is some stuff has happened recently where like I look at that text message and I selfishly go into a poor me. Mm-hmm. Like that person's like, they're calling out, they're sick or they got something going on, and I go into a pity party for myself, and I'm like, man, like now my entire day has been disrupted, and now I have to like change everything, and now I have to go step into this role which I wasn't planning on stepping into today. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that's where it's tough as a business, as a business leader, is like I just. And then I feel guilty about that later, right? I'm like, God, I'm such an ass because, like, I should be like, I need to be more empathetic to the situation that happened for this team member, or the fact that they're sick or whatever the case is, and here I am feeling sorry for myself because like I got to step in and do their job. Mm-hmm. It's just like
not to keep beating the COVID horse too, but I think sometimes that's hard because you're sitting here thinking, like you don't know how much runway you've got to stay in business, and now I've got to pay this person to not work if they're full time or have the benefits to do so, and when things are close. When you're looking at, what the payroll numbers are and making sure there's enough money in the bank account, paying people to not work, it's tough from the management, the ownership side of it. And it's the reality. I mean, you give those benefits out when you're not expecting a crisis, and you're doing it because it's the right thing and you want to give back to your people and they've earned it and all that kind of stuff. But like, when things are thin and you're looking at, do I have a 1 week, 2 week runway, and now I'm paying people to not work? That's tough.
That's really tough. Yeah.
So
COVID.
All right, but
so if you can't realize, like, we all empathize with everybody out there. We feel you. We know what you're going through. We're right there with you. If you want, like, a shoulder to cry on. Like, I mean, I'm right there with you. Like,
We're here to celebrate. We're here to commiserate.
Hit me up. I'll like cry with you. It's been an interesting year for sure. But I will say this, like, if you're tired of looking at your atrocious lawn because you're working on your back porch as much as I have this year, then call Rusty at Masters Lawn Care and have them come clean that mess up. Where can they contact you, man? Where can they reach out? What's the best way to get a hold of you guys?
Yeah, so social media, the Masters Lawn Care website, themasterslawn.care.com, and phone is 378-LAWN.
378-LAWN.
That's right.
How'd you make that happen?
That was way back in the day, man. That's when they were giving
like
those
the Yellow Pages
Yeah,
days.
the Yellow Pages days.
You're like, can my phone number be LAWN?
I mean, you did the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to like.
Yeah, you're not going to give your cell phone
number out there.
I'll give you a hint. It ends in NS4L.
If you've never realized, my cell phone ends in NS4L.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, it was the only way you'd switch from his San Antonio area code. I won't give you any more of it. Hit 665. Anyway, so I'll clean up. The ideal team player is Lencioni. You nailed that.
Yes.
And if you're ready to close, I'm going to ask you for 3 summer lawn tips, your top 3 for all the listening public out there.
All right.
What are, let's put it this way. If we're doing our own lawns, what are we messing up?
You're doing your own lawn.
So the most common things are people don't mow high enough.
I did that this weekend.
Not
by
meaning
accident.
they smoke grass, but like did they mow high enough on like the mowing height?
Sorry if I just laughed.
By the way,
out loud.
I was going to tell y'all my phone number is now 378-LAWN. For a while it was 372 grass, and that got some weird phone calls, so we had to switch that up. I think I got it from after a drug dealer or something. So first, mow at a correct height, which is typically higher. 2, mow more often. So mow once a week. A lot of people like let the grass grow real tall and then scalp it because they don't want to cut it too often in the summer. And then they're wondering like, why does my grass look like crap? Well, you're mowing too low and you're mowing not often enough, right? So those are the 2 things. And then the third one is just water the right amount. Everybody wants to either dump on watering every day or like, no, GRU water is expensive, so I don't want to water at all. And they're like, well, I don't have a green lawn. Well,
I know it's different by city and county, but when is the appropriate time to water?
early morning, 2 days a week.
Early
for
morning,
longer times. So hour for rotating zones, fixed spray heads, 20 minutes, depending on if they're in full sun or shade or whatever. But yeah.
Beautiful.
I would never ask these kind of questions. These are only my questions. That's what I love about it. I would never ask a question like that. But hey, like I know our audience appreciates the variety.
You can tell who uses a lawn service and who does it themselves.
Hey, I use Masters Lawn Care. I mean, I'm just saying.
I'm on the Dave Ramsey kick. I'm trying to save money.
Yeah, well, and that kind of goes into a whole another hole, which we won't go into. But, you know, one of the things that I've absolutely learned over the course of my career is, like, you know, I need to be that hour, well, 2 hours. Mm-hmm. Let's be real. It'd take me 4 hours to cut my grass. Mm-hmm. Like, that time is better spent somewhere else.
Sure.
You know, on my business or, you know, wherever the case might be. So.
He just told me I didn't work hard enough.
That's not what I said. I knew you were going to take it that way, but that's not what I said.
See, I need the catharsis of lawn mowing so I can clear my mind.
Hey, which is also, a lot of people do keep it for that reason. It's like a meditation, like,
You'd be
this
amazed.
is my zone. This is
like
my
their
time with, this is my
exercise
time
and
with
their
God to, like, get out there and talk. I've seen that. I've heard of that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
That's good. This has been fun, man.
Yeah. I appreciate you having me, man.
Thanks for coming on. Tell the team to keep doing a great job, and I hope 2020 just continues to, like, do well for you guys, and for everybody who's listening, I really hope that everybody pulls through. I know it's we've said it multiple times. I know it's been a tough year. We've definitely had those coronavirus sessions. Been kind of interesting, kind of hearing how everybody's been navigating it, but we're right there with you, podcast fam. Stay strong. We absolutely love you guys. Any last words?
Yeah, if there's anything we can do to help you, let us know.
Yeah, please.
Contact us, message us. Did we do the reach out? We got your phone number,
we got
social
stuff.
media, all that kind of stuff. Ours too, at WHOAGNV, WHOAGNV. If you want to sign up for the podcast, text WHOAGNV to 484848, right?
Yeah. If you want to get notified when episodes come out, like, text me. Just type WHOAGNV to 484848.
Yeah.
And you can listen to Alexa. You can ask her to play the WHOA podcast, and she will do so. Anyway, that's it. We love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. This is the WHOA GNV podcast, the podcast for your businesses and individuals that make you go, whoa.
Or your HMS pin.
We'll see you later. Alexa's like freaking out. See ya. Bye.